Michael Hauser from Back Informed Physical Therapy, and today we're going to do the movement screen from the Titleist Performance Institute. This is called the TPI Level 1 screen, and we're going to take Zane through that to see how he moves his body with certain golf-specific movements. And this is going to give us, again, a fitness handicap and a starting point from which we want to take Zane to hopefully moving better. First test we're going to do is looking at how Zane controls his pelvis, both rotation and inflection. So first we're going to look at flexion and extension. I'm going to take the golf club. You're going to fold your arms across your shoulders. And now I want you to just try to stick your bottom out behind you and then tuck your bottom underneath. Do that a couple times for me. We're just looking at the quality of the movement. You can see a little bit of shaking there. The next test we're going to look at is pelvic rotation. So I'm going to take the golf club, have him cross his arms again, and now I want to see how do you rotate your pelvis without your shoulders moving. And we're looking at how it rotates, if there's any lateral movement. I can put my hands on his shoulders to stabilize. Looks like you can go a little bit better to the left than the right there. Now we're going to try the opposite. So now, from your golf posture again, can you rotate the shoulders without the hips moving? Again, I can put my hands on his hips, stabilize. So the next thing we're going to look at is balance. So let me have Zane with his hands at his side, bring that right knee up to hip height. Try to hold it there. Balance is huge for the golf swing, so you really want to take your time assessing that at the beginning. If there's any limitations with balance, it becomes very hard to hit the golf ball consistently. All right, and then we're going to look at that same thing, but with his eyes closed. So right knee up, eyes closed. PGA Tour guys that they test out at the TPI in California, the average is 25 seconds on one leg with eyes closed. And that tells you how much balance plays a factor in the golf swing. And this is something easy you can practice at home. Next test we're going to look at is called the overhead deep squat. So I'm going to give Zane a golf club, and I want you to, shoulder width, toes pointed right at me, club goes right overhead. And now, keeping that golf club overhead, squat down as low as you can. And we're just seeing how far you can go keeping the golf club overhead. Good. Let me take the golf club. I'm going to ask you to put your hands on the side of your neck, elbows down, and now do that same thing. And we're just comparing if we eliminate part of the shoulders from that deep squat to see if he can go a little lower. Next thing we want to look at is his ankle mobility. So I'm going to have you get into what's called a half kneeling position. Good. I'm going to put the golf club a little bit in front. Let me just check. Good. All right, and now we just want to see if he can bring his knee to the golf club. And what we're paying attention to is how far that ankle can move. This movement is very important to maintain your posture in the golf swings, and you can see his heels coming up a little bit, which means there's a little tightness there. Okay, let's check the other side. Okay. That one looks tighter. So a little tighter on the left side than the right. And that can definitely affect how he maintains posture in the golf swing, and we will see in the Big 12 assessment if that shows up or not. All right, next thing we're going to look at is shoulder rotation in the what's called the 90-90 position. So Zane, if you're just standing, you can face me with your right hand. Bring this up there. And now I just want to see if he can bring his hand behind his elbow. Good. And we're just making sure that rotation's coming from the shoulder. Yep. want to turn around. Let's check his left arm. Okay. Go ahead. We can see definitely it doesn't go as far, which is normal for right-hander. Good. Go ahead and face me. It's a continuation of the 90-90 test. We're going to look at that same test in golf posture. So from golf posture, keep your left hand on the golf club and bring that right arm up to that 90-90 position. Now try to bring the hand behind the elbow. You can do it still in golf posture, which is good. Okay, and now let's turn around and check that same thing on the left side. We can see definitely tighter, and he's a right-handed golfer, and that's a very important move on the follow-through to maximize power. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is called Thoracic Rotation. So I'm going to give Zane a golf club to just put across his chest. Get it nice and close. And now feet together, knees together. It's really important to keep those knees together. With those knees together, turn your shoulders to the left and then to the right. We're looking to see symmetry, and also if you can get about 45 degrees each way. Next thing we're going to look at is called lower quarter rotation. Specifically, we're looking at the hips. So I'm going to ask Zane to stand with his feet together and then bring that right foot back just a little bit and lift the heel off. The goal of that is to put most of his weight on his left side. From here, he's going to have a golf club across the front of his hips, and really make sure to keep that pressed right on your hips. And then I just want you to turn your body to the right. And then turn to the left. Really focus on keeping this right on the lower body. Good. Do maybe one more time each way. And that's just looking at the internal and external rotation of his left hip. Now we're going to switch to the right side. Do that same thing. Looking at internal rotation of the hip on that backswing. And external rotation of the right hip. Next thing we're going to look at is called cervical rotation. So I'm going to have Zane just stand in his normal posture and then just turn your head like you're looking over your right shoulder and then to the left. Again, looking at if he can get over to his collarbone. It's an important movement in the golf swing because our thoracic spine is rotating around our head. So it's always good to check your cervical rotation. Next thing we're going to do is called a toe touch test. It's looking at hamstring flexibility. So Zane, you'll stand feet together, hands together, your palms facing you like that. And now keeping your knees straight, just try to bend down and see how far you can get. We're just seeing if you can get to the toes, maybe above the toes. Making sure he's not bending with his knees. Next thing we're going to look at is wrist range of motion. So I'll have Zane bend his elbows, make a fist, thumbs up, and we're just going to go up and down like we're shaking hands. Making sure he's not moving his forearms. And we're just seeing how, if he can get both directions, if he can control that, if the movements are symmetrical, and what that range of motion is. Now, just keep your fists, bring your arms out straight, and we're going to, with the thumbs in, go down and up. And then the last direction, stand this way again, make a fist, thumbs up. We're going to go out to the side, and then thumbs in towards each other. It's one of the most important moves for the wrist in the golf swing, pronating and supinating. It's where we release all the power as we're coming through the ball. Next thing we're going to look at is glute strength. Your glutes are what drive power in the golf swing. So it's very important to assess glute strength with every athlete you work with. So I'm gonna ask Zane to bring his hands up to the ceiling, and then from this knees bent position with his feet flat on the floor, I want him to raise his hips up into what's called a bridge, and then we're going to try to straighten the left leg. Just hold it there, seeing if he can hold it for 10 seconds. Maybe a little shaking, but not too bad. Okay, and then the other side. And the leg you're testing is the one that's on the ground. That's the one that's doing the work to hold up your body and keep those hips extended. Next thing we're going to check is some shoulder mobility and strength, and this is the reach, roll, and lift test. So from a quadruped position or hands and knees, if Zane just kind of rocks back on his heels and then bends his elbows and makes fist with both hands, and then bring your forehead right on your fists if you can. Perfect. From that position, let's start with your right arm and just put your palm down, and now reach that arm out towards me as far as you can. Roll the palm up to the ceiling, and then try to lift the arm without your head coming off the other hand. Good. And we're just seeing first if he can lift it, and then second how high he can lift it. And this is a really challenging test to look at shoulder mobility and strength. Good. Now the left side, palm up, and then lift. We can see that left arm does not go as high as the right, which we would expect. All right, so we've just completed Zane's TPI level 1 screen, and we can see right here, fitness handicap 6, which just like in golf, we want that number to get down as low as possible. And a 6 is really good. So that tells me that Zane has good strength, range of motion, flexibility, balance, but he's not aware of how to use his body correctly for the golf swing. We saw in the TPI Big 12 that his fitness handicap for the swing was a 22, but here for the movement part, he's a 6. And this tells me right away that we should be able to make really good progress with Zane pretty quickly, because he has the ability to do the movements, but he just doesn't know how to do them right now. So if we go through these screens, I'll just point out what's significant. The pelvic tilt test, a little bit of an S posture that we saw. A little bit of what's called shake and bake, which is when we're trying to, posteriorly tilt the pelvis and we get a little vibration. Pelvic rotation, a little bit limited to the left. Torso rotation, again, limited to the left. Holding his hips, both directions improve. So that again, showing me that if we teach him how to do the movements a little better, things are gonna start happening really good. Overhead deep squat, a little bit limited with the arms crossed, and then a little limited with dorsiflexion on his left side, which, something small like limitation in dorsiflexion can actually cause a loss of posture, which we saw with Zane as he was coming through the ball. Toe touch test, good flexibility. The 90-90 test, which is looking at shoulder mobility, a little bit more mobility on the right than the left, and a little bit less in golf posture than standing on both sides. Single leg balance test, better on the left than the right, and that's normal for a right-hander, because normally we're going to be standing on the left side while we use our right leg. Both sides could be improved though, and we'll definitely work on that. Lower quarter rotation tests, hip mobility was good. Thoracic seated trunk rotation test, looking at your thoracic rotation, both sides was good. Glute strength was good in the bridge test. Cervical rotation, good. A little bit of limitation with right pronation in the right wrist.
little bit of a limitation on the right with wrist flexion, bowing the wrist. Reach, roll, and lift was a little bit limited on the left side, good on the right side. So from here, you'll see next, we're going to put all this information together, and this is when it starts to get fun. So we'll see you next time.